Hi, everyone. Coming to you live from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm Scott Harrison. I'm the artistic director of Ironweed Productions. We're a theater company based in Santa Fe, and our mission is telling stories rooted in the American experience. And in that vein, I want to welcome you to Talking Theater Live, Conversations with Santa Fe Theater Artists. And I'm very honored to have with me this evening Santa Fe actor Matthew Montoya. Matthew, thanks so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me, Scott. I'm really honored to be here. It's really cool to be here. I've been catching up on the past two editions of Talking Theater Live, and it's really interesting, so I'm glad I could be a part of it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to swapping some stories.
Yeah.
And Matthew, was your last production here? Was that Was that your most recent one?
I actually just finished a pretty small role in Much Ado About Nothing.
Oh, great!
The Shakespeare Society. But I wasn't really intended to be in that role. I had to kind of fill in for an actor who had some scheduling conflicts. So that was kind of a bit of a surprise to me. But outside of that, yeah, my last production was here at Teatro.
Cool. Yeah, we are coming to you from, we've come from kind of different locations with the different interviews. We're coming to you live from Teatro Paraguas, which is a lovely theater here in Santa Fe. For those of you who are, hi Harriet, just checking in on folks that are joining us as we go here live. For those of you joining us for the first time, Talking Theater Live is a series of 20 to 30 minute conversations between me and Santa Fe theater writers, actors, directors, producers, designers, dramaturges, stage managers, sharing stories about their experiences in the theater and the path that took them to creating theater in Santa Fe. So we are, as I said, coming to you live from Teatro Paraguas. I want to thank artistic director Argos McCallum, who generously opened up the theater for us to be able to do the interview here. We're actually sitting in the audience in the first row, and the theater is straight out ahead. So. Matthew, I know you've done a couple shows here, and I wanted to talk to you about those in a moment. But I also wanted to just share with you all briefly a little bit about where we are, especially those people that don't live in Santa Fe. Teatro Paraguas is a very cool, intimate theater space. It's been here for several years. Argos built it from the ground up. He'd been at El Museo Cultural for a long time, and then came here and created his own space. And they are located on the south side of Santa Fe in what's called the Sila Rafina district, which has become quickly a hub of theater in Santa Fe. Really cool things going on here. David Olson with Theater Work actually kind of blazed the trail out here over 20 years ago. Building a lovely theater on Rafina Circle. But Argos and Teatro Paraguas, they've been here for many years, and now we have Adobe Rose Theater. We have the New Mexico Actors Lab performs here in the summer. We have the Santa Fe Playhouse, has a rehearsal space nearby. Of course, we've got Meow Wolf just around the corner, so just a lot of things happening here. And with Paraguas being so gracious to open their space, I just wanted to let you all know their mission is to promote literature and theater through English, Spanish, and bilingual presentations of contemporary Hispanic, Latin, and multicultural poetry and plays, while promoting children's theater, producing the works of New Mexico playwrights, and I love this part of their mission, especially right now, celebrating history, richness, and diversity. So if you're visiting Santa Fe, if you're not from here, you're here in town, please come check out a show here at Teatro Paraguas. If you live here and you haven't seen one, please come out. They do wonderful productions, poetry readings, many just great events. They have a production of Sotto Voce, which is coming up this fall. by Nilo Cruz. So please come out and support this wonderful theater company. And one other just small tidbit here about where we are in the Silo Rafina district. There's a very cool event that's coming up in September, September 16th, from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. It is the Theater Walk Santa Fe, and it's being organized by theatersantafe.org, which is a nonprofit. It's a collection of volunteer theater artists. The organization is geared toward promoting theater in Santa Fe, promoting collaboration amongst theater companies. They do wonderful work, and they're putting on this theater walk September 16th from 3 to 6. It's right here in the Silo Rafina district. This is a great family fun day. It's free. Patrons can stroll from one venue to the other in the district, watch short performances from 13 different theater companies in town. Ironweed will be there, Paraguas, many other companies. Eat and drink and get food from some food trucks that will be here. Enjoy street performers, win prizes, and more. So a lot of really cool stuff happening in this part of Santa Fe on the south side. And we're delighted to have the interview here at Teatro Paraguas. So I've talked enough. Matthew, just to start off, because we're talking about Paraguas and kind of where we are, I just wanted to ask you about your experiences. Just tell us about your experiences with the two productions that you've done here.
Well, the two productions I've done here at Paraguas have been probably my largest roles and the roles that I've had the most fun with, probably. It started in, I think it was April of 2016 with Welcome to Arroyos.
Right, that was a great show.
And that was just so much fun to be a part of. Roxanne Tapia, the director, we did just a lot of crazy fun stuff and a lot of stuff that I actually never thought I'd be able to do on a Santa Fe stage, and it actually kind of knocked off a goal of mine, a dream of mine, because growing up listening to some hip hop music, there was a period of time where I actually thought maybe I could be a rapper.
Excellent.
But because of Roxanne and the Welcome to Arroyos production, I kind of got to live that for a couple weeks.
Yeah, because you all were set up as DJs and on the stage as people came in, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, that was that was just such a unique experience, and I think a unique way of inviting the audience into the show. So that was for one particular production, that was actually probably the most comfortable I've ever been on stage, because the manner of speaking was pretty similar to how I kind of spoke regularly. So
nice.
it wasn't a giant leap for me to get to the character I played, which was Nelson. So, and then the last production I did here just recently this spring was the mofo with the hat. That's the clean
PG version.
That's the PG title. We can't tell you the regular title, but for me that was probably the most gratifying experience, because that was my first time in a lead role.
Yeah.
So I've always when I was doing supporting parts, I always thought to myself, how cool it would be to be in a lead role. Mm-hmm. And then I got a lead role where I was the force. The show went as I went, and carrying a show, and it was so gratifying just to be in that role and on this stage for 8 of the 9 scenes. So it was a challenge, but like anything worth doing, when it's hard and you do it well, that's when you get the gratification from it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just I saw that production and I loved it, and I love the whole ensemble. I really
Yeah.
loved your performance, and I was just curious because you as a person and also as an actor, I think I was just very thoughtful, both in being you're generous and you're also just very reflective. And to me, I mean, you're just very thoughtful.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me to see you play this character who is so Jackie, Jackie,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
who's so visceral and so reactive and volatile, but
Yeah.
also lovable.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, and I know, acting in a sense, there's always where it's a certain amount of transformation is involved, but you just really seem to tap into the soul of that character, and because to me he seems so different from you.
Yeah.
I wondered just if you could talk a little bit about your process in discovering him.
Yeah. Well, in talks with the director, Rick Vargas, who was he helped out tremendously, and just technical things, finding beats, using objectives, finding beats, finding out what your objective is, and using tactics to get to those objectives. And if the tactic you're using isn't working, switching tactics and finding other beats and finding moments within moments. So big picture, that helped out tremendously. When doing the character work, well, me and Rick kind of talked about it, and Rick pointed out something that I kind of didn't really realize, which Jackie might really be one of the hardest roles I'd ever have to take, because Jackie's really just really out there. He's kind of a wild card, and he's really, like you talked about, visceral, feels, and isn't really shy about letting some of that out. So with me, I kind of try to tap into some of that I always kind of felt, but didn't really feel comfortable on stage. So for me, it was just a matter of letting go and trying to just take these risks, trying to find Jackie, and I think we succeeded for the most part. There was also a point where I really actually wanted to just kind of, because I mean, Jackie, for those that haven't seen the production, Jackie was, a drug addict, alcoholic, recovering, all of that, and those are experiences I've never had. So it was finding areas where me and Jackie were similar. So, playing a certain scene, because a certain scene doesn't really call. I mean, we're aware that Jackie's a recovering drug addict, recovering alcoholic. We're aware of those things. So I didn't really need to play those things. I mean, there's some scenes in there where the scene was about desperation, and that's a feeling I'm familiar with. So I was trying to tap into more of that desperation, and then trying to just play Jackie, and Jackie became very, very, very human. At first it seemed kind of like a daunting task and a daunting role, but at the end of the day, Jackie was just a as he would put it, probably misfortunate. The world's against him, but it's also having to take a look at himself and see what he's done wrong. So that was just a whole ride to be a part of. So finding Jackie was difficult, but it was the most rewarding experience, because I was able to really tap into an area that as an actor I've never gone to before.
That's great. Yeah, and I mean I love too that you made he's as we said, visceral, volatile, all this, but you just cared about him so much, which was such a great and I think it's that whole thing of it, like you said. I mean, it's interesting with a character that you're playing that you feel like, well, there's certain experiences this character does not have, but what can I find within myself that I can tap into. And I really, I just thought it was such a human character that you created. So,
Well, thank
and
you.
yeah.
I
And
try to approach every role with, not really playing a character,
right.
but finding a little bit of myself in that character, because just drawing on those experiences will bring out ultimately, I think, what we're looking for.
Right.
I don't want to be, and I don't think the audience necessarily wants to see, someone that's up here acting. They want to be taken there. So if I can make it a little bit more real for myself, I feel like I can make it a lot more real for the audience that's come to see the show.
Right. That's great. Yeah, that was just a wonderful, wonderful show.
Yeah.
Do you find with certain parts? I know for me, there's certain parts that I've just had a hard time. Hi, Robert Rotenberry, friend from the past. Wow.
All right, cool.
Do you find that it's difficult to let a character, particularly something like that, go when the show's over? I mean, is it?
It can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jackie was a big part of my life for probably 3 months, 3.5 months. So letting Jackie go was a little bit of a challenge. But at the same time, it was kind of, after you get a little bit of time back being yourself, I found it a little bit easier to kind of let Jackie go. Whenever we close a show, I mean, we do shows typically, from Thursday to Sunday. Whenever we close a show, that Monday, Tuesday, and that Wednesday, I'm kind of myself again. But come Thursday and Thursday night, and I'm kind of like, well, typically I'd be on stage by now. That's kind of when you start to miss it. You kind of start to feel it. But with Jackie particularly, Jackie stayed with me probably for a couple weeks. And there's actually some times now where I can still recite some of the lines. I still get a little bit of that feeling back. So
Well, I was a good friend and colleague of mine, Mona Malik, was telling me once, which I just thought was so true, that it's like characters are little pieces of our souls. So it's difficult sometimes to, just to kind of, to let them go.
Yeah.
I can definitely understand that.
It's bittersweet.
I totally agree. You are from Santa Fe originally, and I wanted to just talk to you about this, what that experience is like, because one, I have lived a relatively short time in Santa Fe. We moved here in 2002, and the other thing with my experience is my father was in the military, and so we moved around probably every couple of years, and so I don't kind of have that feeling of a place where I'm from. This is where I'm from. And these are my roots. I mean, my parents are from a small town in Missouri, and we have some roots there. But in terms of my growing up, and I just wanted to ask you, just tell us about your experiences growing up in Santa Fe.
They've been unique. For sure.
Yeah.
When thinking about Santa Fe, I think about a place that is, I mean, the nickname for Santa Fe is, of course, the city different. Mm-hmm. So when I think about Santa Fe, I think about a place that is very, very diverse, but at the same time a place that's very loyal to itself and loyal to its roots. So just taking that everywhere you go, you kind of see it. Santa Fe is a place that's pretty interesting, an interesting place to live. There are a lot of interesting characters that we meet in Santa Fe, but it's such a diverse place. while at the same time being very loyal to itself and loyal to what made it. And being from Santa Fe, I feel a lot of that loyalty. I mean, we're able to do things like, we're one of the biggest manufacturers of art in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We're also one of the biggest, we're starting to grow with stage productions.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the Santa Fe Chamber Music Festival, the Lensic does
Mm-hmm.
so many things. So it's really diverse, but also, if you go to a show at the Lensic, you're going to see probably world-renowned and world-class actors, musicians, whatever it might be. But just right down the block is a place where me and my friends probably got kicked out of. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, and your family has your family has had roots in Santa Fe for quite a while.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the only home I've ever known.
Yeah.
Outside of being in the Air Force, the only home my father's ever known. My mom's lived here majority of her life. My grandmother, her mom, has been here. They're originally from a little town. My grandmother's family from a little town up north called Ocate. But yeah, for the most part, they've been here. I've been here my entire life. I've actually only ever lived in 2 houses, and they were actually on the same block.
Is that right? Wow,
So,
that's
yeah.
great.
So
Wow.
yeah, Santa Fe is there's something really unique about it that kind of it draws people in, and it makes people stay.
Nice. That's yeah. Do you feel? I know I was talking to a couple. Oh, hi, Karen. Bruce Nelson. Hello. Just checking in with folks joining us live. Really appreciate you joining us. I was talking with Leslie Harold Dillon, a couple, our first interview.
Yeah.
And, I said, my father moved around a lot.
Yeah.
Again, it was probably every 2, at least, at the most, we'd stay in a place, 2 years or so, maybe 3. And I find that I am drawn now, there's a part of me that's just drawn to stories and characters that I feel like are a product of how I grew up, which is not a bad thing at all. I mean, there were wonderful experiences about my growing up. I'm just fascinated with the differences that people experience.
Yeah.
And for me, I find with stories and with characters, I'm drawn to, for example, characters that are searching for roots. There seems to be, for me, I'm drawn to kind of drifter characters, characters trying to find a home. With plays, I'm definitely drawn, I love Horton Foote, and I'm drawn to stories that tend to be about home and kind of what that means. And I just wondered, from your experience, which is different from mine, of having grown up in a place and lived in the place that you lived in the house that you grew up in, do you feel that there are certain kind of stories and characters that you're drawn to as a product of your experience growing up in Santa Fe?
That's actually a really good question. I've never really given it much thought. My experiences have kind of been where some of the roles I've taken and some of the roles that I have a lot of interest in, they kind of happen in kind of major cities, New York.
Oh, interesting.
Los Angeles, Chicago, those types of settings. So maybe, there might be a little bit of that in me where I've never been to those places. But I mean, you take something like Welcome to Arroyos or The Mofo with the Hat, both placed in New York.
Yeah.
So we're trying to transfer Santa Fe, New Mexico to the Lower East Side of New York City. So having never been there, I've never really given it much thought, but there might be a little bit of part of me that uses uses theater as an outlet that takes me to some of those places that I've never really been.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And do you have, like I was thinking the other, excuse me, the other day, I think I was talking with somebody about, well, what kind of roles would you love to play? And,
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when there's kind of particular ones that I'm just really burning to play or whatever. But I did, I was thinking about it and I thought, I couldn't really identify anything like right now, this particular, at this particular time, like, oh, I'm just burning to play this role. But
Yeah.
I did, and when Sam Shepard's passing a few weeks back, for some reason, I was thinking, one thing that I'd love to do 15 years from now is have the opportunity to play some of the father roles that
Yeah.
Shepard wrote. Just having experienced some of his kind of younger characters to have that opportunity, and there's something about those voices that I just I feel drawn to. Do you have are there kind of particular characters, or there particular voices or types of characters you feel like, man, I would just love to play that type of part?
A little bit, yeah. I was back when I was kind of just getting started. I would go online and try and find plays to read, and I would have plays mailed to me. A lot of them had to do with sports. My absolute dream role would be a play by Richard Greenberg, "Take Me Out," about a baseball team, and the kind of narrator in that production would be the shortstop, nicknamed Kippy, and it's just such a large role, and it's kind of, he's the narrator, so it's kind of the ever knowing, overseeing role. So that is very interesting to
That's
me.
cool.
Playing sort of, some characters that seem larger than life. Some characters that seem really, really, really big, not necessarily in stature, but in reputation. I think taking on those roles would be a little bit of a challenge for me, but I would really like to see what I can do if I get to sink my teeth into one of those.
That's cool.
So yeah, when I look at also, I mean, I like whenever I'm reading plays, there are kind of like certain lines too that I kind of think that's a funny line, or that's a strong line, and seeing what I can do with those. I like characters that can just make my experience very gratifying. And whether that's the lead role, that's a supporting role, whatever it might be, I want to be someone that's involved in the story, and is pretty crucial to the audience. I'd say.
Nice. Well, that Take Me Out. I don't know that play. I have to read that. That's great.
That's a really, really interesting. I believe it won. I believe it won a Tony Award and was nominated for an Obie, maybe 2003. I want to say.
Yeah, great.
I might be my year might be wrong on that though.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we had just a couple more. You got time for just a couple more questions?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, hi, Armando.
Hey, Armando.
Good to see you. I was in I saw Mofo with a Hat.
Yeah.
I noticed in your program you gave a shout out to Barbara Hatch and Kelly Huertas.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if you could just talk about, which I thought was really generous and cool. Just talk about them, your mentors, people that mean a lot to you in the theater in Santa Fe.
Well, I always think about it, because if it wasn't for Kelly Huertas, I might not be sitting here today, because I have a tendency to fall in love with something pretty rapidly, but also can kind of maybe fall out of love with it pretty rapidly as well. So after I started, I took some classes at the Santa Fe Community College and decided, I'll go audition for some shows. I auditioned for Benchwarmers twice, the melodrama twice, and didn't really get nothing. I auditioned for Benchwarmers again the following year, and it was Kelly Huertas who wanted me for her piece. So without that, I felt like there could be a possibility where me going to auditions would have been further and fewer in between. And
Nice.
I might not have gotten the opportunity that I got if not for Kelly deciding that she was the person that wanted me in her piece. And then so she's very big, of course. Barbara Hatch is another one who just since I've met her, she's been nothing but generous with her time, generous with her knowledge, generous with her feedback, and she's I think a very special person. Whenever you're around her, you can tell that she has a passion for this, and it shows, and it makes you passionate about it too.
Yeah.
So just having talks with her, getting to work with her, and just being someone that I can talk to if I need it. If I need a little bit of advice or whatever it might be, I know that she's someone that is very generous with that and will always offer a helping hand.
That's great.
So
Well, that's
there too, for sure. That
right.
I always come back to. I mean, there are a lot more. I can talk on and on about them. But really every time I do a show, I find something unique about someone that I've never actually worked with before, and try to take those little bits of inspiration with me.
That's great. And I mean, it's so it's such a blessing when you get those people that encourage you or take time out with you or support you or just show interest in what it's and there's times when it's just like you said, there's that where it kind of keeps you in it, which is really important. I had one last question. I wanted to ask you if you remember from like what your earliest memory is of when kind of the magic of make-believe or the magic of becoming someone else was something that you experienced. Do you recall?
I do actually, yeah. I remember growing up. The first thing I actually wanted to be in life was a professional wrestler. I was watching wrestling. I loved wrestling. Actually, still do love wrestling. So I remember wanting to be a professional wrestler, and then that kind of boat kind of passing me by, and then being in sixth grade, I was writing some stuff down and thought that I could put a word or two together, and then that's when my inspiration came, and I wanted to be a rapper. So I carried that probably from about sixth grade to my senior year in high school. The last half of my senior year in high school, I told myself I should probably start thinking about something seriously. So the last half of my senior year in high school, I wanted to be a sports journalist, kind of like write for maybe the New Mexican, or if you become big time, write for Sports Illustrated or ESPN or something. So I focused the last half of my senior year in high school on that. And going into college, I wanted to focus on sports journalism. And then about 2 weeks after I graduated high school, I was watching a TV show, and I thought, that's kind of interesting what they did there. and then I kind of created like another scene in my head, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if they did this or they did this this way? So a scene started in my head, and then it became a series of scenes, and then it became different thoughts and ideas, and I kind of thought to myself, well, I might be, because I've always had an interest in writing, maybe I could write some scenes, and then if I were to write some scenes, who would act in them? You know, I'll give it a shot. And that's kind of when it started with wanting to become an actor.
Right.
And going through all that, I just realized, from professional wrestler to rapper to now actor, I think it was just the world telling me that, you know, I should be a performer.
Interesting.
So, I remember just creating these little scenes in my head, just things points that I thought were strong and that could maybe evoke a reaction from certain people, and then it kind of just blossomed from there.
Nice. Well, thanks, Matthew. Thanks so much for this conversation. Yeah, I love hearing different people's just experiences, their perspectives, how it shapes them. And anyway, it was just, I've really, really enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, thank you. It was an honor, a privilege to be here.
Well, and I also just want to say, I've had the privilege of directing Matthew in a production last year. We did of creating a scene, and it was just a real privilege. Anyway, thank you again. And I just want to, before we sign off, just let you all know that this and future interviews, we're learning as we go. This and future interviews will actually be saved to videos on our Ironweed. Oh, hi, Kelly. Huertas is on.
I saw that.
Oh, wow. So this will be saved to our videos on our Ironweed Productions page on Facebook, which is at Ironweed Santa Fe. So please like us and follow us on Facebook. Our interviews, ironically, the last three have actually been in the same day of the week and the same time. They're not always going to be that. So, but we will announce them ahead of time. So again, please like us and follow us on Ironweed Productions, our Facebook page, and we will announce who our future interviewers will be. But I will tell you that our next interview will be next week, next Wednesday. You'll have to follow us on our page to find out when, but we will be interviewing Santa Fe teacher, director, actor and writer, and head of the New Mexico School for the Arts, Joey Chavez. So again, Matthew, thank you so much for this conversation and your time. Argos McCallum, thanks so much for allowing us to use Teatro Paraguas.
Thank you, Argos.
And all of you out there, thank you so much for joining us. Until next week, good night.